Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Joining me on the show today is Laurie Sheinkopf. She is a realtor in Nashville, and she also is a rental property owner. Hey, Laurie, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to talk to you.
So you have 9 rentals. That is that is a pretty good-sized portfolio. How did you start off buying rentals? Were you an agent first, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I was a realtor in Nashville, and I had put a condo on the market for one of my clients so that they could buy a house. And it was an inexpensive one. It was like $65,000. We're going back 10 years. Mm-hmm. And the mortgage fell through for the buyer. So I bought the condo myself.
Oh, so wow.
That way she could move forward into a house, and I bought it. I paid cash for it. And for 5 years, I rented it out. It was the part of the market where it was really hard to find rentals anyway, because it was kind of the low end part of the market in a very high end area. Okay. So I had no problem renting it. I rented it for 5 years. And then I flipped it and made enough money to buy my next one. And that's what I've been doing. I'm a little different. I try to keep my rental properties, and I know that there are experts out there that have different philosophies on this, but I really try to keep my rentals at the low end part of any market, because God forbid the market happens or a 9/11 happens. It's much easier to get rid of houses that are in that first time, second time home buyer than it is the luxuries.
When you're pricing your rentals, do you try to price them like a little bit below market, or are you trying to get every last? Okay.
On the market. Like 2 years ago, I have a luxury property, and the luxury market was saturated. I had so much competition since the time I had bought it. I was making great money on it, and then there was a ton of other ones that came on the market. So I watched the market get flooded, and I brought my property down. And now, 2 years later, or a year later, now I'm bringing it back up again because all the other ones are rented. You really, 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 really need to know what market you're in when you do rentals. It's the horror stories you hear them for a reason. It is nowhere near as easy as everyone thinks it is. And I always encourage my clients who do this, and I help a lot of clients do this. You need to keep a kitty. You need to keep money for disasters. And I've had 2 in my experience. They've cost me, some significant amount of money, but I still love doing it.
Well, what happened? What were the disasters?
Actually, what's really interesting is I was helping out one of my best properties in Franklin, Tennessee. I love this house. I've had it for 9 years, great neighborhood. And every time I put it, regardless of what market we're in, I get 20 to 30 phone calls. Well, this woman, her husband had just been killed in Afghanistan, and I felt that I should give it to her. Mm-hmm. And her credit checked out okay, but she lived there, stopped paying rent after about 4 months, and I had just spent about $10,000 renovating this property. I had to spend another 4 months later. It was a tough lesson. It was one of those lessons that, I was trying to be a good person, where I had renters that had better credit and more substantial jobs, but I felt like I owed it to her. Yeah. So, you live and learn. Yeah,
that's a tough one to learn there.
Tough one. Yeah. It was a tough 4 months of losing money. So, again, that's why I'm all about having a savings. Yeah. I don't depend on one rental to be, totally. I want all of my rentals to be able to support half of the ones I own. Okay. So,
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I don't ever go more than I can afford, which is what a lot of, in the old days, a lot of experts would buy high-end so that they could get a lot of rent. But then when the market tanked, they couldn't get rid of the properties, and then they couldn't rent them. Right. Mine are always at the low to middle end of the market, which is the safest bet to find in any market.
So what price range in your market, what price range are you looking at?
It depends. Our market in Nashville is now separated kind of into the suburbs and now into the city. When I first moved here to Nashville, there was no city living. I was the first realtor to actually buy in a high-rise downtown. And I'm now kind of doing that market. But I try to stay, so the average price where I have some of my rental properties, the biggest thing for anyone, if they're going to start doing rentals, is buy where your best school system is.
Okay.
Everybody always wants to rent where the best school system is. Unless, of course, you're going to go to the other side, which was me, and it was a new market downtown, young, hip, urban. It was a market that hadn't started in Nashville yet. It was still inexpensive. So I bought there as well. But my first entrance into rental was absolutely best school systems. At the time, I bought properties that were between about 150 and 250, and the average price in there went anywhere from about 300 to about 600,000.
Now, what about the condo fees when you're buying in a high rise? Do they kill your cash flow?
Interesting you should ask that. I just had that conversation yesterday. So here's my feeling on it. It's one of those things if you can get in inexpensively. So I bought a condo in 2006. It was $190,000. It was 2006. So I rented it. I made just enough to cover my mortgage. I paid the HOA, which was $300 out of my pocket. Then I raised the rent, got that paid for, and then the market crashed. It went down, and now it's come back again. And now the condo is worth almost $300. So again, it all depends on the market. I kept knowing that I could either lose money or I could make money. The HOA fee for anyone that's doing rental, that's the big deal. In my houses, the fee is only about $39 a month. Much easier pill to swallow.
Right. Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Now, you're in a real interesting position being an investor and also being an agent.
Yes.
Now, a lot of times people have trouble trying to find an investor-friendly agent. What do you think is a good way to go about finding someone that's skilled in working with investors?
I think the first thing that you need to do is check out people's websites and see if they do rental properties. I always tell people, I practice what I preach. I'm not going to sell you a rental property if I've never done it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to find that most agents, and look for agents that have the CRS designation. That's like having your doctorate degree in real estate. There's not a ton of them in the country, but we're a pretty savvy group, and we do a lot of different real estate, commercial, investing, all kinds of, because this is our career. We don't do this part-time. We get educated. It's, requirement. But the easiest thing to do is ask if the realtor does it. Do you own investment properties? If they say no, how can they really help?
Right.
They haven't lived it. There's plenty of agents that do this, because you know what? Most realtors that really love doing this for a living, this is their passion. I mean, I would rather have real estate than shoes. I love real estate.
Yeah. So if someone found an agent that owns rental properties, that they seem like they know the market, they're going to be able to guide you to some good investments, what are some questions to ask them to qualify them to make sure that they're going to do a good job for you?
First question to ask is, do you have any mortgage contacts? The problem with investing is it's not like buying your primary residence. You have to put 20% down. Some people, like I have a group of mortgage people that they can do a little bit more creative financing than the standard, because I'm really their client.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll pass on anything that they can do to my client. Second huge question is, do you have a good home inspector? Do you have a good HVAC person? Do you have a good handyman? Do you have personal relationships with everybody needed in order to keep my rental safe, up to date, and moving forward?
Yeah, that's really good. I really think that a good agent is really the cornerstone for building your team. Your agent is going to have contacts with every person you're ever going to need to
No question.
to build your portfolio. So now another thing that investors will ask me a lot is if they should get their real estate license. And there's definitely some pros and cons to having your license or not having your license. What do you think? Is it better to get your license or to work with an agent?
It totally depends on the individual. My investors that I work for, they basically buy the houses, fix them up, and I do all the paperwork and I do all the negotiating. If there's a lot of paperwork involved in just real estate transactions in general. And most really true investors that want to fix houses and flip them, they don't really want to get stuck in the minutia. If they have a wife or a partner that can handle that, great. But most of mine are men, and they would rather say, Laurie, can you just go run this? Can you go do this? Can you go to the attorney's office? They don't want to be stuck with doing the things that are not cost effective for them.
Right.
I think that if you have a team, and I mean, I've worked with some where the wife, was a builder. They decided to get into investing, and the wife got her license. So it was great because she could handle the paperwork. But if it's a single person that really just wants to focus on the buying of the properties, if you can find a good realtor, they'll find them for you.
And, also the fees can be expensive when you pay your MLS dues and your realtor dues. I mean, it's Absolutely. Thousands of dollars a year.
Thousands of dollars. Yep.
Yeah. And then also the other thing too that people forget is just because you have a real estate license, it doesn't mean you're a good agent. You know probably enough to not get in trouble, but you don't know all if you get into a difficult situation with a contract or deals falling apart, you may not know what to do, where a good agent's going to be able to save that deal or figure out creative ways to keep things done, keep things together.
Let me tell you, you are 1,001,000,000% right about that. If I've worked with an investor that I probably do somewhere between 10 and 20 a year for him. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of times that I've literally given up almost all of my commission to make something work because the contract's going to fall through, or the loan person didn't tell the truth, or we found out that they didn't know that they had now been rezoned flood, even though there's no water around them. I mean, these are, and if you find a good realtor that sticks with you, I mean, there's plenty of times that I've worked with my investor, made $100. I mean, the thing is to keep helping him and moving. And a lot of investors don't have the personality to handle it if something starts falling apart. They just want to buy it, fix it up, and move on. I'm kind of the fall guy that kind of maneuvers all the pieces of the puzzle. Even when it falls apart, I'm the one that comes up with solutions on how to keep it back together or change it or find another buyer.
So what do you think are some good strategies to try to find rental deals? Like, do you think that just searching the MLS every day is the best way to come across stuff?
Searching the MLS is good. A lot of people use Zillow and Trulia and all of those sites. The problem is the fact that by the time they put them on there, they could already be sold or done. The best way, in all honesty, is go on Craigslist. Some of those people, they think they can do it themselves. Might be a way to find a property. Mm-hmm. Newspaper, see if anybody's being foreclosed on. If anybody has a relationship with a bank, they might be able to go and talk to the people about, giving them some information if anything comes up that they want to buy and flip. Those kind of avenues are getting a little harder, but they're still doable. Okay. Banks are now getting into, banks have lost so much money, Dan, over the years on just people trashing properties, and then they would reduce the price even more. A lot of local banks, especially if they know realtors that have connections like myself, will say, hey, can you fix this up? Because instead of bringing the price down $30,000, it only costs $10,000 to fix it. Right. So you fix it, and then you put it on the market. So I've noticed a little shift in the last couple of years of the banks not dumping as much on the market. I think they're getting a little bit more savvy.
What about when you're looking to buy a property, can you generally get a better deal if you find a place that needs a lot of work? Or
it depends on the market, right? I mean, right now in Nashville, we have so few properties that people aren't even fixing home inspection items. That's a great question, but totally depends on the market. If you have a shortage of inventory, sellers don't have to do anything because, I mean, I had put a property on the market yesterday. I had 4 offers. My seller is a nice guy. He's going to fix stuff, but even if he didn't, the person would buy it.
One other strategy, shifting back to your portfolio that I wanted to ask you about is you are doing vacation rental by owner with,
unbelievable.
So tell me how this works.
So I am one of the luckiest people I know because my dream has always been to have a property on the beach. I've lived in Florida all my life. When I moved to Nashville, there's no beach. So about 4 years ago, I started going to an area called 30A, kind of between Destin and Panama City.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely fell madly in love with this very old building that was directly on the water. And I did some due diligence, and I got a business partner. And I love customer service anyway, and it's kind of what I'm known for. And we decided that we were going to try it. The worst thing that happens is we would use it. Well, my love of decorating and my having a fabulous business partner, we are doing so well. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, my condos there are booked 89% of the year. I now have one in Nashville that just to give you an idea, I could rent the one that I have in Nashville out for maybe $2,000 a month. I'm making probably $3,500 a month doing VRBO.
Wow.
Yeah. It's great. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do it even in another state that you don't live in. But if you have the time, it is now the hottest thing between Airbnb and VRBO. People love this. It's the latest, greatest thing. I have clients and friends doing it all over the world right now and going and getting on Airbnb. It's cheaper than hotels. My one in Nashville, Sleep 6, it's $300 a night. That's one room in downtown Nashville, and I'm 1 mile from downtown. It's been booked from Thursday to Monday this entire year.
And how does it work? So do you have someone that will go in there and clean the place up between guests?
Contacts. No matter what I'm doing, contacts and relationships to me are the most important thing because it makes my life easier.
Okay. So, and with all the coordination, when people have questions before they book, they just email you?
Call, email, text, anything along those lines. If you can find something in the core of any city or where your area is, regardless of what state you live in, where maybe there's concerts that go on all the time or anything, pick like a little hot spot in your area and see if you can find something there that's affordable. Check out the rates of hotels. And if you can do for 4 people what most hotels, charge for 1 bedroom, you will make money. And my property has already doubled in value.
That is great. And then I guess the other advantage too is you don't have to deal with any evictions or tenants not paying you.
That's exactly right. And I make more money having it rented, 3 to 4 days out of a week than I would, and having it 30 days is less wear and tear on it.
That is awesome. And then what about, do you have to spend more time like communicating with guests or once?
I do everything through VRBO. VRBO is literally, there's tons of websites out there. Airbnb, Flipkey, Travelocity has merged with Flipkey. VRBO, hands down, is the best website there. I do everything through VRBO. All my contracts are on there. Everything that you need to know, directions, everything. They only call me if they need a restaurant recommendation or, if something breaks, which I have yet to have. And I have a handyman if, God forbid, something happens. Actually, both here and in Florida, I have a handyman. So I love it. This is the funnest thing I've ever done, ever. And people have written me the most beautiful letters on their vacations. I've got probably 75 to 100 testimonials on all of my properties. People are more than happy to tell you what an amazing experience they've had.
That is really, really great.
Cool. It's one. And here's the kicker, Dan. You do it in another city. Every time I fly to Florida now, it's a tax write-off.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Is now a tax write-off.
Right. And you got a free place to stay.
And I have a free place to stay.
That is great.
It's very fun.
Well, Laurie, if someone wanted to contact you, either to work with you as an agent or maybe even to stay at one of your vacation rentals, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Just call me. You can call me. My phone number is 497-4012. I always answer my phone unless I'm with a client. I don't believe in putting people into voicemail unless I'm with a client. And you can go for my vacation rental properties. The ones on the beach, you can go to Beach Dreams on 30A.com.
I'll go ahead and put your website and your phone number on my website. You can find that at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 54. Thank you so much for subscribing to the show. I really appreciate it. We'll be back with a new interview next Tuesday. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.